I was only a week into my summer internship at Harlow and Lane, one of those high-gloss PR firms in Manhattan with glass walls, cold brew kegs, and a rooftop bar for team synergy. For a girl from Detroit who paid her way through Howard on scholarships, this was a big deal. I'd beat out hundreds of applicants, most of whom had Ivy League connections or surnames that meant something. I was determined not to mess it up, so I arrived early, stayed late, dressed sharp, and kept my head down. But from the beginning, there was something off. My manager, Chelsea, a 34-year-old white woman with an icy smile and a Pinterest-worthy office, called me Zara for 3 days straight, even though my name, Zara, is right there in my email signature. When I corrected her gently, she blinked like I'd challenged her authority. Then came the first smile more comment. We were preparing a deck for a luxury client, and I was focused, typing, scanning, fact-checking. "You look tense," she said with a forced laugh. "Try smiling more. This is a fun office, not a courtroom." I laughed it off, not knowing it would become her favorite phrase. By the third time, I stopped finding it funny. If you've ever been told to hide your discomfort to make someone else feel powerful, like and subscribe. I still feel it in my jaw, clenched behind every forced grin. What made it worse was watching how she treated the other interns. There was Daniel, who wore loafers with no socks and couldn't format a spreadsheet to save his life. Chelsea adored him. "Daniel has such presence," she gushed in a meeting after he half-heartedly pitched a campaign that was basically just copying Apple's last ad. Meanwhile, when I suggested we incorporate influencer-led storytelling into a client's brand refresh, she said it was a little too on the nose and more of a trend piece. Then she turned around and handed the same idea, word for word, to Ava, another intern, who presented it at the next meeting and was applauded for being in tune with Gen Z. I sat there, stunned, realizing I was invisible until someone else wore my skin. And it wasn't just ideas being taken, it was language, tone, space. When I laughed too loudly, I got side eyes. When I spoke with passion, I was intense. When I asked for clarification, I was difficult. The other interns could toss paper balls at each other or curse under their breath during Zoom calls, and Chelsea would giggle. But if I so much as leaned back in my chair, she gave me that fake smile look, like I was already on thin ice. One afternoon, during a client call, I offered a suggestion that I knew was strong, using micro-narratives from real customers to tell an authentic story for a luxury wellness brand. Chelsea interrupted me mid-sentence with a tight-lipped grin and said, "That's cute, Zara, but maybe stick to what you know. This isn't BET." The call went silent for a beat, and then someone chuckled nervously. I sat frozen, fingers still on my keyboard, feeling every drop of heat rise to my face. She moved on like nothing happened. No one said a word. Not Ava, not Daniel, not the senior strategist on the call. And I shrank a little smaller in my ergonomic chair. That night, I couldn't eat. I sat in my apartment staring at the wall, wondering if I'd made it all up. Maybe she didn't mean it that way. Maybe I was too sensitive. I called my mom, who didn't skip a beat. "Baby," she said, voice steady like it always is when I need her. "You're not crazy. You're just surrounded by people who don't see your light because it blinds them." I cried. And then I decided. I wasn't going to quit. But I also wasn't going to let this be another silent thing I swallowed. I started keeping receipts. Notes, screenshots, times and dates. The smile more moments. The urban vibe jokes. The day she said, "You don't look like someone who'd know about yacht culture," but surprised me. I didn't know exactly what I'd do with all of it yet, but I knew I wasn't crazy. And I knew if she ever slipped in public the way she did behind closed doors, I'd be ready. Because one thing Chelsea never seemed to understand is that Black women don't just endure. We document, we remember, and when the moment comes, we speak. Even if it shakes. Even if we've been taught not to. I didn't know yet how my voice would rise, but that a single audio clip would go viral and change everything. I only knew this. I wasn't going to smile to make her feel comfortable anymore. After that call where Chelsea dropped the BET line like it was just witty office banter, I stopped trying to play it cool. I kept showing up early, kept doing the work, but something hardened in me, like I built a shell inside my chest, one I could hide behind while I watched everything more closely. I realized Chelsea didn't just disrespect me, she underestimated me. And that was her first mistake. I bought a small clip-on mic from Amazon, barely the size of a bobby pin, and synced it to my phone through an app that uploaded everything to the cloud. Every meeting, every call, every casual coffee check-in with Chelsea, I hit record. Because if I was going to be treated like I didn't belong, I wanted proof. Proof that it wasn't paranoia or misreading the room. It was racism, plain and unlittered, dressed up as culture fit and client readiness and professional polish. The recordings started piling up fast. On Monday, she told me, "You're really articulate. It's so refreshing." On Wednesday, after I disagreed with her PR angle for a crisis management pitch, she said, "We don't need attitude. We need alignment." That same day, she introduced me to a potential client as our DI superstar, straight from Howard, and winked like we were in on some kind of joke together. I wasn't laughing. Then came the Slack messages. I'd noticed Chelsea laughing at her laptop during lunch breaks, but I never thought anything of it. Until Jonah, one of the other interns, quietly pulled me aside after hours. He was a little awkward, the kind of guy who refilled the coffee without being asked, who didn't say much in meetings but always nodded when I spoke. He said, "I think you need to see this," and forwarded me a thread he wasn't supposed to have access to. He was interning with IT and had been helping restore archived messages. The thread was between Chelsea and another manager, Madison, and it was disgusting. She called me a diversity hire with too much attitude, said I act like I run the place because I read too much Black Twitter, and joked that I was the type who files lawsuits when you ask her to wear heels. My hands shook. I stared at my screen for a long time, then hit save and emailed the screenshots to myself. Chelsea was good at being fake woke in public. She reposted BLM graphics in 2020 and wore a Kamala Harris t-shirt on Casual Friday. But behind the scenes, she was the kind of white liberal who weaponizes smiles and uses the word sassy like it's cute. And yet I still hesitated. I knew what happened to girls like me who spoke up. We got labeled difficult. We got quietly uninvited to opportunities. We disappeared from the narrative. But then, during a pitch meeting with a massive corporate client, I watched her take the campaign concept I'd outlined in our internal doc, a bold, community-based influencer activation, and hand it off to Daniel like it was his. Word for word. He presented it. She clapped. The client applauded the forward thinking. I sat there blinking, wondering if I was in a dream. Afterward, in private, I asked her about it. She smiled and said, "Oh Zara, ideas evolve. You're still learning how to shape yours." That night, I cut a 10-second audio clip from a staff call where Chelsea said, "Zara's tone needs work. It can be a little too urban for our brand." I posted it anonymously to TikTok with the caption, "POV, when your boss forgets her mic is still on." No name, no faces, just the audio. Within hours, it had 50,000 views. By morning, 600,000. I watched the numbers climb from my futon, heart racing, unsure if I'd just torch my whole future or lit the match that would finally make someone listen. The comments poured in, "Been there. This is how racism sounds in corporate. Tag the company, sis." I didn't. Not yet. I wanted them to squirm first. But someone at the office must have seen it, because the next day Chelsea called a surprise intern check-in. She was smiling a little too hard. "Just wanted to say how proud I am of this team," she said, eyes darting toward me. "There's been a lot of noise online lately, and I hope you all know how much I value each and every one of you." I stared right back. The rest of the week was tense. Whispers in hallways. Side glances. People pretending not to know. Jonah texted me. I think the clip scared them. That's when I knew I had leverage. I cut another clip. This one from a casual post-meeting chat where Chelsea said, "I don't get why people are so sensitive. If you don't like the culture, don't apply here." This time, I included a blurred screenshot of our Zoom window and posted it with the caption, "Culture is not an excuse for racism." 2 million views. Then 6. By now, people were connecting dots. The firm's logo was visible in one of the window reflections. Former employees began commenting anonymously. "This is 100% Harlow and Lane. I work there, same vibes. Chelsea has always been like this. She made me cry in 2019. The pressure built like a kettle about to scream. That weekend, someone sent me an email through a burner account. HR knows. They're trying to find out if it's you. Be careful." I panicked for a moment, then breathed. I had the receipts. I had the truth. And the world had heard enough to believe me. Monday morning, Chelsea didn't show up to our team call. A partner stepped in. "She's on temporary leave," he said stiffly. "We'll be evaluating some internal matters." No apology. No accountability. But that silence, that was a crack. And cracks become breaks. I wasn't anonymous much longer after that. But I wasn't afraid anymore, either. The Monday after Chelsea was put on temporary leave, everything at the office felt tight. Like the air had a charge in it, the kind you feel before a storm. No one said anything directly, but I could see it in the way people avoided my eyes in the hallway or suddenly acted overly polite. As if my very presence was now loaded, dangerous, maybe even powerful. By the end of the week, the HR director scheduled a meeting with me. They offered the classic playbook, corporate concern wrapped in PR buzzwords. "We want to support your growth here. We're committed to learning." And finally, the quiet bribe. "If you'd like to move on with a positive reference and a small stipend for your transition, we can make that happen immediately." Translation: take the hush money and disappear before this gets bigger. I smiled, genuinely, for the first time in weeks, and said, "No thank you." I walked out of that glass room with my chin high and my documents intact. I'd already been contacted by a journalist at the Cut who'd pieced things together from the audio and the TikToks, and when she asked if I was willing to go on record, I said yes. I told the whole story, start to finish. She published it under the headline, "Smile More: How One Intern Exposed a Culture of Polished Prejudice." The article blew up. Other interns, current and former, came forward. Jonas submitted the Slack screenshots. Chelsea was officially fired within days, and the firm launched a sudden restructuring of its DEI practices. They updated their website with vague apologies. But by then, the damage was done, not to me, but to them. I didn't fade like they expected. Instead, I graduated with honors and got hired by the same media company that broke the story. A year later, I stood on stage at a diversity in media conference, giving a talk called "Professional Doesn't Mean Palatable," while somewhere out there, Chelsea was probably telling someone else to smile more. But I didn't need to. My work smiled for me now, and it had teeth.